to look at the camera? I just need
Just
to
look at
the
me.
general
Just look at me.
direction?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
That's fine. We're just going to talk and be comfortable.
Okey-dokey.
Got this, and I got this. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We're here today, September 5th, 2015, in Snellville, Georgia. I'm here with Qwynn Galloway-Salazar. I'm Dr. Rashanice Candy Tate with the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, and we're conducting a Veterans History Project. So thank you again for letting us come into your home.
Absolutely.
So we'll start off with when and where were you born?
I was born on September 9th, 1982, in Manhasset, New York.
And your parents are?
My parents are S.C. and Ralph Galloway.
And what were their occupations?
My mother worked for the telephone company for approximately 20 years. She retired working for the telephone company, and my father was a tractor-trailer driver, and he retired from that as well.
Okay. And then did you have siblings?
Yes. I am the youngest of 6.
Okay.
I
Can you tell us their names
Sure.
and if anybody was in the military?
Sure. My oldest brother, his name is Dr. Lavelle Galloway. I have a sister by the name of Dina Galloway. I have another sister by the name of Tasha Brack. Another brother by the name of Ralph Eugene Galloway Jr. A sister, Camille Galloway Bentley. Forgot she's married. And then it's me. I'm the youngest.
Okay. And did
No
one else
military.
know? So what were you doing before you entered the military? Besides being the younger sister and pestering everybody.
I was the youngest sister, and I was the one who decided to make a break and go into the military. Initially, my senior year in high school, I contemplated joining the Navy. And I thought that through and thought, I can't swim, so there's no need in me joining the Navy. My freshman year at college, I attended Morris Brown College in Atlanta, Georgia, and a recruiter was on campus, and I engaged in a conversation with the recruiter, and they sold me the wonderful dream that they sell so many, and I could travel the world, and they'll pay for my college education, and I said, sign me up.
And that is where you and I met.
And that is where we met.
And at Morris Brown on a fateful day.
In 2002.
With a little pink and green around.
With a lot of pink and green around. Candy, you pinned me. Once I became an AKA.
So as you say, the rest is history. So it's nice to hear your story of what you've done since our first encounter.
Full circle.
Right. So you went into the Army.
Yes.
And so tell us where you enlisted.
Yes. I enlisted into the Army in April of 2001. I did my basic training that summer at Fort Jackson in South Carolina.
Okay.
I completed my basic training, and then I went back to school. So I did something called a split out, where I went to basic training for one summer, and then the following summer I completed my my training for my job specification, which is called AIT.
Okay.
I did that the summer of 2002. And my training for that, I became a finance specialist in the United States Army.
Okay. And what did that entail?
That entailed making sure soldiers' pay was where it needed to be and making sure soldiers got paid on
Payroll.
time.
You were very important.
Yeah. So, it was the type of job to have that people normally liked you because they wanted to get paid.
Now let's go back to basic training a little bit. So kind of tell me what that was like.
Oh.
You got through.
I got through. I'm not sure how I got through. When I joined the military, I think I did not watch enough movies that talked about the experience of basic training. So once I got to basic training, it was everything that every movie that I've seen thus far has shown. It was a nightmare. But it taught me a lot about myself. It taught me my strengths, it taught me my weaknesses, and it taught me how to overcome my weaknesses. They were tough on me. I was a smart mouth little girl from New York, and I thought I knew the world and knew everything in it, and I was quickly told I didn't know any of it.
Okay.
I learned a great deal of things in the military. In basic training, I learned especially how to be a team player, and how important teamwork is. So I look at that, and I'm grateful for it. And while I was there, I got to play with a lot of weapons, which a lot of people can't say they've had a chance to do. A lot of girls can't say they've had a chance to do.
Cool. What about the adjustment from living in different places? So from where training was to, as you say, you were in New York versus having to come south to train.
I grew up in New York.
Okay.
When I left for basic training, I was here in Atlanta. And so it really wasn't that big of a transition, except Columbia, South Carolina is a little bit hotter than here, but it wasn't that much of a transition.
Okay. Do you recall any instructors?
Oh, I recall them all.
Anyone you want to name names?
I had one female drill instructor. Her name was Drill Sergeant Lender. And Drill Sergeant Lender was she was barely 5 foot tall. And
you are?
And I am almost 6 foot tall.
Okay.
So just keep that as a visual.
Right.
And she made my life miserable from day one. Her first line to me was "Welcome to hell." And she meant every bit of it. But she made me realize joining the military was serious business. And during basic training, I didn't realize initially how serious it was. Her showing me how serious it is, I appreciated that at the end. And upon graduation, her and I had actually formed a bond. And we talked about that experience. And I appreciated everything that she instilled in me for those 9 weeks.
Great. Did you have any specialized training?
Well, I take that back. When I went to AIT, I trained as a finance specialist, and I also trained for postal, so I was also a postal clerk.
Okay. And AIT, tell me, is it advanced?
Advanced, goodness, my brain just went out for a second.
If you remember it.
But it's advanced training.
Okay.
Individual training, I think is what it is.
Gotcha. And then how about the physical regimen, living in the barracks, the food?
Hard. Hard.
Describe that for us.
The physical was hard. I was not athletic prior to. I learned how to be athletic very fast. The first time I did a push-up was during basic training. Fine time to start. That was difficult. Getting my body in shape according to military standards was really difficult. Fortunately for me, I was 18, so I was able to adapt pretty fast to it. Living in the barracks was difficult. Growing up as the youngest, and there was a huge age gap. I want to say there's 9 years between my last set of brothers and sisters and I. So I grew up as the only child. So living in the barracks where there were tons of people, that was an adjustment. But it showed me a lot in terms of how to live with other people and get along. So I don't take that for granted. The food, you didn't have a chance to taste it because you were always it didn't matter. You were always on the go. So
don't worry about that favorite mom's dish or anything. So no, just get it down.
Just get it down.
Okay. So from basic training, kind of tell me where did you go?
Right after basic training, I got out of basic training in August 2001. Actually, towards the end of August 2001, I got home, and approximately 2 weeks later, 9/11 happened. From that point, it changed the direction of every aspect of my life. when I enlisted in the military, I didn't think that within the years that I was going to serve, there was going to be a war.
Right.
The last war that had occurred, I was in the 3rd grade. So what were the chances that 9/11 would happen?
Right. So you were just
right
going to get
after?
your
I was going to get my
college tuition money paid for it,
and I was
be done.
going to travel the world and
Okay.
be done. It didn't happen that way. 9/11 happened, and in 2002, the unit that I was attached to, we were placed on alert. Christmas 2002, we were called up to active duty. And our mission was to serve as support to Fort Bragg for the soldiers that were getting ready to deploy out of Fort Bragg.
Mm-hmm.
So January 2003, I was a junior in college.
Okay.
And at the same time, Morris Brown was losing their accreditation. Well, they lost their accreditation.
Okay.
And I was getting ready to mobilize and go on to active duty.
Mm-hmm. And so what did active duty entail?
Active
So kind of what
duty,
is it?
active duty entailed mobilizing soldiers to deploy, ensuring that all of their pay was taken care of prior to them deploying, which was tough. Oftentimes you hear stories of the soldiers that deploy and how tough it is, but actually sitting there and seeing all of these units getting ready to deploy,
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that some may not make it back home,
Mm-hmm.
that was difficult.
Right.
You know, a lot of the soldiers that left through Fort Bragg, they were young. You know, they were 18 and 19 like me, and they were getting ready to serve their country, not knowing if they were coming home or not.
Right.
Some didn't, and we processed thousands of soldiers for those 2 years that I was on active duty. And that was my main function. Towards the end of my tour, I picked up a specialization in postal, and I took on that obligation in being the postal clerk
Mm-hmm.
for the units that were deploying. So I had a lot of time to sit and have one-on-ones with those soldiers who were picking up their mail, and you know, they had a package from their mom, and they talked about missing mom or
Right.
missing their wives,
Right.
and how life was going to be difficult. So I got a greater understanding for soldiers who were deploying and some of the things that they were experiencing prior to them leaving,
And what was going on in their
and what was going
mind.
on in their mind.
Mm-hmm. No. And you say 1,000. Kind of, what is the magnitude? Would you say? Of?
I couldn't even tell you. We processed so many soldiers, and I was there for 2 years. And they were coming in. I mean, one particular rotation, we had over 1,000 soldiers come in from Puerto Rico
Mm-hmm.
that were deploying. And we did this for nonstop. So there was a lot. There's a lot of soldiers coming in.
So in your, again, is there a story of, like you say, if you're the postal clerk, you're hearing all kinds, is there one that sticks out in your mind?
One that sticks out in my mind, there was a young soldier that was coming to pick up mail from his wife, and coincidentally his wife was having a baby. And he talked about how difficult it was leaving, knowing his wife was having a baby, and the fact that his wife was going to have a baby and he was going to be overseas.
Mm.
And that touched me, because at that very moment, I was 20. I didn't understand what that felt like for him
Mm-hmm.
or his wife, or the thought of a child was going to be brought into the world not knowing his dad right away.
Uh-huh.
And it touched me, and it actually kind of played a part in my career going forward.
Okay. How so?
Once I got off of active duty, I made the decision that I wanted to start working with military families. So I was still in the Army Reserves, and I was working for the Army Reserves as a civilian contractor. And my first job was in a call center where we contacted family members of soldiers who were deployed. and we checked on them monthly to see how things were going, to see if they needed any resources, just making sure that their well-being was up to par during their soldiers' deployment. And that story, talking to that young soldier whose wife was pregnant, it played in my mind because that became the norm. I heard it a lot. A lot of spouses were having their children, and they had multiple children, and the soldiers were leaving. And a lot of the spouses were upset, and they were hurt, and they didn't understand. So that initial interaction with a soldier like that kind of helped me to understand what those families, what they were going through and what they were going to go through. And from there, and this was in 2005, I made the decision to go to school and complete my master's degree in professional counseling, focusing on military families and the needs of military families. And with that, I actually specialized in post-traumatic stress disorder. And now that is kind of morphed into what's going on now with a lot of service members and veterans who are coming back from war.
With PTSD.
With PTSD.
Issues. Right. So did you have, so your wartime experience, you were on here seeing it from having to send people to the war.
Right.
You need to want us to pause for a second. Sure.